Good morning and welcome to the Development and Finance Committee meeting of the Housing Opportunities Commission for March 22nd, 2024. I am Commissioner Jeff Merkowitz. To my left is Commissioner and Chair of the Commission, Roy Priest. Also on this committee, but necessarily absent today, is Commissioner Robin Solomon. And also with us is President Chelsea Andrews and other staff of the HOC. Begin the meeting with the approval of the minutes from the Development and Finance Committee meeting from February 26th. Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
I will second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. The minutes are approved. The first item on our agenda today has to do with a procurement issue for legal counsel, and I will turn that over to President Andrews.
Yes, thank you. And good morning to all members of the public, as well as the HOC team. This first matter relates to the ability of our legal counsel to have support of other legal counsel for various items and issues. I will turn it over to our Deputy General Counsel, Paige Walsh, to provide additional, Gentry, to provide additional details.
Good morning, Commissioner. For the record, my name is Paige Gentry, Deputy General Counsel of HOC. I'm here today to request that the Development and Finance Committee recommend for approval to the Commission the following 4 requests as further described in the presentation. First, the establishment of a legal pool with 17 qualifying firms. Second, authorization of the President and Executive Director or her designee to enter into contracts with the firms. Third, authorization of HOC staff to engage with the firms in the legal pool on an as-needed basis. And fourth, authorization for payment for services to such firms as further described in the packet. So starting on slide 3, page 10 in the packet, for a bit of context, in 2019, the Commission authorized the formation of a legal pool for real estate transactions and financing, which pool expires in May of 2024. In light of the upcoming expiration earlier this year, HOC issued an RFQ for legal services and expanded the type of services included in the pool. As I'll cover in more detail later, the second half of this slide summarizes how the pool works and how firms will be paid. So please advance to page 11 in your packet and slide 4. The 2019 legal pool only included a solicitation for real estate and transaction and financing as set forth in number 1 on this slide. In this RFQ, we expanded the pool to include numbers 2 through 5, employment law, advice on policy and regulations, litigation, and landlord-tenant law. The expansion allows HOC to quickly and efficiently access a larger pool of firms with more varied expertise, which in turn enables us to better navigate the complexities of regulation, compliance, litigation, and contractual obligations that arise. The slide also shows the subcategories for the real estate pool, and that hasn't changed from the 2019 pool. Next slide. 19 firms timely responded to the RFQ and 17 firms qualified for the pool. And of note, 4 of the firms that are newly qualified are new to the Commission. Next slide. The next 2 slides, so slides 6 and 7, set forth the minimum qualifications and the evaluation criteria we use to evaluate firms. And so move to the next slide. The evaluation team was comprised of 4 HOC staff members that reviewed the firm's responses for experience, staffing, fees, and MFD efforts. Firms needed a minimum of 70 points on average to qualify for a specific area of expertise. If you advance to page 15 in your packet, slide 8, slides 8 and 9 set forth the areas of expertise that each firm applied to and for which they qualified. So when you're looking here, firms with a check mark meet the minimum points required for an area of expertise and are recommended to be included in the pool. Firms with an NA did not apply to the area, and firms with an X didn't meet either the minimum qualifications or the minimum qualifying score. Slide 8 shows the firms that qualified for the areas of expertise in real estate, and if you advance to the next slide, which is page 16 in the packet, slide 9, you'll see the firms that qualified for the pool in employment, policy and regulation, litigation, and landlord-tenant law. Please advance to page 17 in your packet or slide 10. Just quickly, here's how the legal pool will work. When outside counsel is needed for a matter, legal will contact the firms within the applicable area of expertise to obtain at least 3 quotes. Legal then will select a firm and HOC will enter into a task order for that scope of work. Next slide. If the commission approves this request, HOC will enter into an agreement for services with each firm in the pool. The term of the agreement will be for 2 years with 3 renewal terms of 1 year each, and the initial contracts will be for $0. Once a firm is selected for a task, any work done will be paid from the following sources. So for a project that's currently under development, it'll be either paid from the approved pre-development or development budget for that project. Or if there isn't an approved development or pre-development budget, it'll be paid out of the real estate division's operating budget, which then would be reimbursed later once there is an approved budget or pre-development budget. For work related to a specific department of HOC, it would be paid out of that department's approved budget. And for work related to an existing property that's not under development, so one that's just sort of doing ongoing normal operations, the work would be paid out of an approved property budget. Each firm's fees are based on the fees provided in their proposal, and those are held for the first 2 years of the term of the agreement. And then the firms can negotiate an upward increase in subsequent years. And finally, if you can advance to page 19 in your packet, slide 12. This request has no direct impact on HOC's operating budget. Legal services will be sought on an as-needed basis and paid for from existing approved budgets. And please let me know if you have any questions.
I only have one question. It's just to understand. So once a firm is admitted into the pool, basically all the firms are then on equal footing. Is that right? So when we put out a request for a bid and to the area of expertise, the only thing we're evaluating is price at that point?
It's price, but there is, and this is permitted under the procurement policy, an ability to, it's price and their response. So if we don't select the lowest bid, then we have to document what was the rationale for picking it. It could be capacity, say they're already doing a lot of work with us and we want to spread the work around, or other things like that.
Okay. And does MFD come into play at any point after? I mean, is the benefit of the MFD really only at the entry into the pool level, and there's no consideration?
Currently, yes, but
beyond
I
that?
prefer to ask if there's any additional.
Okay.
One thing I would note is that firms through HOC Works, we do have a firm that provides trainings for our residents. And so through HOC Works, there's different ways that the firms get involved beyond just the application.
Yeah. No, it's good. I mean, I guess I just want to think about, like, if there's, I want to make sure that there's more than just an opportunity to be invited to the party, and that, there's actual work that gets provided as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this way is consistent with the way we've operated other pools that we've had. Beyond legal, it's the same thing we do. And creating a pool and then going and asking for a bid based upon those firms that have the requisite skills within the scope of what we're looking for.
Yeah.
And done that. So I think that's consistent with the way we've run all of our different pools. Yeah. With that, I make a motion that we recommend this item forward to the commission for action.
And I will second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The motion is approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda is a request to approve an amended finance plan for the Leggett. President Andrews.
Yes, thank you. Commissioners, as you're aware, the Leggett development, also connected to the SCRAC, was one of our largest developments ever. And as a result, and almost anticipated, everything did not conclude on the date that we thought it would. There was definitely delays, many of which were outside of our control. As a result, we have had to modify our finance plan, and here to present the request to modify the finance plan is Victoria Dixon, the senior multi-family underwriter. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, commissioners. So here to request the approval of the amended finance plan with increase of the related funding source and additional applicable actions. The Leggett is 267 units, age-restricted apartment of community, recently constructed in Silver Spring and formerly known as Elizabeth House 3. In 2019, HOC closed into the construction financing of the property with the issuance of tax-exempt private activity bonds, which proceeds were used to fund a construction to permanent mortgage loan, a taxable construction loan with PNC Bank with an extended maturity date of April 30th, 2024, and using the real estate line of credit with PNC Bank to provide a loan to bridge receipt of LIHTC proceeds, as well as entering into an interest rate hedge for the floating interest rate of the construction and bridge loans during construction. On page 21, development of the property occurred at the same time as the South County Regional Recreation and Aquatic Center and a senior resource center primary care facility being operated by the Holy Cross Hospital. Despite best efforts, closeout of the property has fallen approximately 9 months behind schedule due to construction delays and slower lease-up pace. This has impacted the property's ability to achieve stabilization and convert into the permanent phase for endorsement under the FHA risk share program in the timeframe originally projected. As a result, receipt of the completion and equity installments of approximately $28 million has also been delayed. A reforecast projects stabilized occupancy to be achievable in June of 2024 with permanent conversion by October. Initial terms have been attained by PNC to extend the construction loan maturity to December 31st, 2024, with closing costs estimated at less than $110,000, with other terms remaining unchanged. With page 21, while interest rates are expected to decline, staff is evaluating hedging strategies and risks for the variable rate construction and bridge loans during the extended period for benefit of the property. As shown in the table, cost to close on the extension and carry the property through the period is estimated to total $7.7 million, inclusive of debt service payments to bondholders due on January and July 1st, with partial offset anticipated from projected interim income of approximately $736,000. Staff will then return to the commission with a final request before December 2024 to reconcile increased costs to the transaction, as well as any adjustment to the LIHTC equity receivable and other matters. Turning to page 22, therefore, in order to execute on resolving these delays and provide sufficient funds, staff recommends the committee join in recommending the commission to approve amendment of the financing plan as presented to include extension of the construction loan with PNC to December 31st, 2024, amendment of the mortgage loan to extend the date required for permanent conversion to occur by December 31st and thereby delay the start of amortization, amendment of the bridge loan funded by way of the relock to increase the total to $33.7 million and mature March 31st, 2025, as well as execution of new interest rate hedges for the construction and bridge loans for the extension period. Are there any questions?
Not a question. I mean, basically, this is required because of the 9-month extension beyond what we thought was going to happen. Also, the lease up was also affected by that as well because the project wasn't presented at the time that we anticipated initially in the original financing plan.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, you'll come back if there are any additional increases, but right now we're operating within the original $124 million budget.
Correct.
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 And we're just simply making adjustments in order to accommodate extending the bridge loan.
Mm-hmm.
Using relock funds to be able to do that.
Yes.
I'm glad to see you all included information about the status of our funds because one of our former commissioners, that was always his pet question. So I'm glad you addressed that. I don't have any other questions.
Just a question about the lease up and stabilization is, I understand that, it's been affected by the delays in construction. Are there any other concerns that, like, if you account for that delay, are we still on pace, or has there been any other challenges?
The lease up of the property definitely has been slower than we initially anticipated. We will, report out that we have had to increase our marketing efforts. We definitely have seen an uptick in terms of lease up over the last few months as a result of the investment in more marketing across different mediums, including on senior ride-on buses and through periodicals. We were experiencing some challenges initially because there are income requirements. So while there were many calls, there were, of course, only certain AMIs were permissible. And then, of course, utilizing our waiting list was also one of the reasons why we had to work even more diligently to get the units leased up. But we're on a good pace. I understand that we're over 70% leased up at this time, and we do believe that we will meet our timelines that we've set out.
It'd be interesting to see whether or not there's any correlation between the opening of the SHRAC and leasing up, because I know you read the articles in the paper and the communications of people who attended that event, there was an increased interest in understanding, I want to live near that.
It's an oasis.
Yeah. And so it'd be interesting to see if there's any way we could track those two things. But I think that having that range of access to those facilities, I think something is going to help our lease up. It's like giving an additional bonus.
Absolutely.
You know,
that as well as the Holy Cross access. And so those are new, wonderful amenities, just a couple of steps away for our residents.
Yeah. And the fact that we have a presence of a health facility right there with a senior population also is an added advantage.
Yeah.
With that,
yeah,
I recommend that we forward this motion to the full commission for action.
I will second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda has to do with the selection of a construction manager at Wheaton Gateway. President Andrews.
Yes, we are excited to continue to take steps forward on our Wheaton Gateway project. I will turn it over to Dejana Donahue, the project manager, to provide more details.
Good morning, Dejana Donahue, project manager with Real Estate Development. We're jumping down to the executive summary. Considering that Wheaton Gateway came before the commission at the previous cycle, I will provide a brief overview on the project. The image here illustrates the assemblage of parcels at the intersection of University Boulevard and Veersmill Road. Next slide. It is roughly a 10-minute walk to the Wheaton Metro as outlined here in red, and the ownership entity includes HOC, Duffy, PS Ventures, and Wilco. Next slide. On March 6th, the commission approved the site plan to be submitted to the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission for the end of this month. With this goal in mind, the development team plans to engage a construction manager and general contractor prior to the start of design development to assist with pricing and constructability guidance. So that is what's driving the commission, the approval of the construction manager at this time. Next slide. Beyond achieving green building codes, the project will also strive to achieve rigorous sustainability goals. This is also aligned with the county's mission. Next slide. RFP 2431 was issued in Q4 of 2023. The scoring team consisted of staff from risk management, mortgage finance, and real estate divisions, as well as a Duffy representative. The proposals were scored on the following 4 evaluation criteria, and the maximum points a proposal could receive is 100. The scoring criteria here is similar to prior CM RFPs, which include qualifications, additional MFD participation, references, and price. Next slide. HOC received 7 proposals in response to RFP 2431. There were 2 proposals that were deemed non-responsive. Below here are the 5 responsive respondents. The first being Fix 360, a certified MBE firm that has previously worked with HOC on scattered sites, but in the capacity as a GC. Owner's Rep has also previously worked with HOC primarily on renovation projects such as Bower Park, Georgian Court, and Shady Grove. JDC is also a certified MBE firm that has provided CM services on various HOC projects, including the Lindley, Benton, Silver Spring, the Laureate, Willamette properties. Lambert's Rank has also provided CM services on HOC projects such as the Leggett and Hillendale Gateway. And then lastly, we have MLG, a local CM firm, but has not provided any CM services on HOC projects. Next slide, please. Yes. In regarding to scoring, following a review of all the proposals, the scoring team scored JDC the highest, 90 points out of 100. And to summarize the scoring team's evaluation, we have a few points below pertaining to the scoring criteria. Regarding qualifications, JDC has prior experience providing CM services for HOC projects, as I previously mentioned. And within their proposal, they strongly demonstrated their expertise and qualifications. For MFT participation, I also mentioned that JDC is a certified MBE firm, and they received full points in this criteria. For references regarding their work on HOC projects, they have performed well, managing change order management and on-time completion. And for price, their proposal received a competitive fee of $1,306,000. Based on the scoring criteria, JDC has demonstrated that they have the skills, team, and expertise to perform CM services, as staff recommends the approval of JDC for Wheaton Gateway Phase 1 for CM services in the amount of $1,306,000 and to include a 15% contingency in the amount of $195,900. This percentage is a consistent standard that HOC has had for CM services previously, and this is to cover unforeseen changes in scope due to the size and duration of the project. Next slide. Here is a summary of upcoming commission actions. The plan is to bring the approval of the GC and the sustainability consultant together for the May-June cycle. And based on the projected schedule for next year, the commission actions also include to submit for the building permit and the approval to execute the GMP with the GC. And lastly, summary and recommendations. The issues here for consideration are the 2 points identified here: to approve the selection of JDC to provide construction management services for Wheaton Gateway in the amount of $1,306,000, including a 15% contingency of $195,900, and to authorize the president/executive director to negotiate and execute a contract with JDC. There is no fiscal impact at this time. The pre-development budget was approved through CY25 and did include CM services within that budget. And this is for formal action at the April 3rd commission meeting. Thank you so much. Are there any questions?
Could you go back to the slide on the major other events in the cycle or commission approval? Right, yeah.
Upcoming.
So
Yes.
it's expected that we would actually execute the GMP in sometime September, October of next year,
Yes.
correct? And then the construction schedule is what? How many years? 2 years?
At this time, the construction schedule has not been solidified because we don't have the GC on board, but it is projected to be a 36 to 40 month duration. And once we do have the GC on board, we can have more of a firm schedule to adhere to for that timeframe.
Would this cover a contract just for the, because you have 2 sides of this Wheaton Gateway. Would this cover both sides of the development or just the original side where we're starting?
This is the phase 1.
Phase 1,
Yes.
okay. Okay.
Are there any other questions?
None. I make a motion that we advance this action to the full commission for their review and approval.
I will second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion is approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda is the selection of a development consultant for the development at Forest Glen Metro. I will just make a comment that while I get excited about all of HOC's projects, I get particularly excited about the ones in my area, which I consider Wheaton Gateway and now the Forest Glen Metro to be too. So I look forward to hearing this.
I second
President
that
Andrew.
emotion. And Forest Glen Development is a project that we're extremely excited about that will really create a wonderful space at the Forest Glen Metro. I'm pleased to turn it over to Walker Taylor, the financial analyst that has been working diligently on this project, to provide an overview of this request.
Thank you, President Andrews. Good morning, Commissioners. Walker Taylor, financial analyst with the real estate development team. And the staff is seeking approval of a development consultant for the entitlement of the entire site in the development and construction of the first phase of the Forest Glen Metro development, as well as additional feasibility funding. Staff is recommending approval of development consultant to assist with the redevelopment of the WMATA Forest Glen site that will be mixed use and mixed income. Given the unique characteristic of the transit-oriented development and the large multi-phased nature of this site, HOC would benefit from working with a development consultant that has experience working closely with WMATA. Primary role of the development consultant will be to assist in the due diligence and feasibility analysis for the site, as well as the overall design, development, and construction of the first phase of the redevelopment. Staff recommends selecting Urban Atlantic as the consultant for the site and to authorize the president to negotiate and execute a contract with Urban Atlantic for the first phase of the development pursuant to the terms outlined herein. Staff is additionally requesting an increase in feasibility funding in the amount of $715,000 to cover 12 months of consultant costs, as well as legal fees and other pre-development soft costs related to the project. This will also include an HOC held contingency of $50,000. Next slide, please. On April 6, 2022, HOC authorized the acting executive director to submit an unsolicited offer to WMATA to redevelop the site and approved feasibility funding for study of the site. Initial concept plans show the potential for 800 to 1,050 new residential units and 6 proposed buildings. The first phase of the redevelopment is anticipated to produce approximately 431 units. Next slide, please. HOC solicited proposals from 5 firms within its real estate development and finance consultant pool to serve as a development consultant for new mixed use, mixed income, transit-oriented development. Those 5 firms were Urban Atlantic, EYA, 5 Squares, Duval, and Forefront. And each of the 5 firms have demonstrated expertise in handling multi-phase TODs, specifically with WMATA. And the scope of services requested in Task Order 2386-1 are listed below. Staff interviewed the top 3 scoring firms out of the 5 firms that submitted responsive proposals. The firms were Urban Atlantic, EYA, and 5 Squares. These firms demonstrated the most relevant experience with multi-phase WMATA redevelopment projects similar to the Forest Glen site. Next slide, please. A scoring team consisting of the HOC real estate development, asset management, and mortgage finance staff scored the firms on the proposals the following 5 valuation criteria here: the offer's qualifications, the experience of the firm in developing high density mixed use and mixed income TODs, MFD participation, and price. The proposal would receive scores ranging from 66 to 89 points, with Urban Atlantic scoring the highest. Urban Atlantic's fee structure includes a fixed monthly fee during pre-development and a vertical development fee equal to 4% of total development costs, less the pre-development fees paid that will be paid during construction. Additionally, to align interests and incentivize a timely execution, Urban Atlantic proposes a development fee cap during pre-development based on an agreed upon scope of work and timeline. Urban Atlantic's pre-development fees will not exceed this cap unless the scope of work or timeline changes for reasons beyond Urban Atlantic's control. This fee structure was competitive, and Urban Atlantic scored highly in this category because of the value of their services at their proposed fees and pricing structure. Next slide, please. Urban Atlantic's relevant experience was comparable to the proposed site, with their most comparable project being the new Carrollton Metro project. This broke ground in 2017 And the New Carrollton Metro project includes 49 transit-oriented acres that would be a mixed-use and mixed-income employment center and residential community. This development will ultimately result in 1,500 residential units, as well as 1.1 million square feet of offices, 150,000 square feet of retail, and a 200-key hotel that will all be oriented around a bustling transit hub. This development also includes WMATA's new headquarters. And it should be noted that Urban Atlantic has an over 20-year relationship with WMATA, both as a joint development partner and a fee-for-service development partner. Next slide, please. Right here is Urban Atlantic's proposed development timeline. It's just the one that was in their proposal. Following the approval of a consultant, staff will build out a finalized timeline with Urban Atlantic, and staff will return to the commission for approval of the pre-development budget. Next slide, please. To continue exploration of the site and to prepare to enter into a JDA with WMATA, staff is requesting additional feasibility funding of $715,000, which includes funding for the consultant during this feasibility period. Staff will return to the commission with the approval of pre-development budget for the end of the feasibility period. The total request is for $715,000, including a $50,000 contingency. They'll be funded as a 0% loan from the OHRF. Next slide, please. Will the Development and Finance Committee support staff's recommendation that the commission approve the selection of Urban Atlantic as a consultant, authorize the president and executive director to negotiate and execute a contract with Urban Atlantic, and approve an additional $715,000 in funding from the OHRF for the feasibility study of the site? Let me know if you have any questions.
Are there any questions?
How long do you think before you will be back to the commission with a pre-development budget?
I would say plus or minus 12 months. I think the idea is to outline that and the fees would cover them for those 12 months, and then we'd come with a set pre-development budget.
And the length of this contract with Urban Atlantic is how much? How long?
What was that?
The length of the contract.
So we will negotiate the contract after we select them, or if we are given approval to select them.
But I'm saying, what's the term of their involvement for the development consultant?
It's based on our initial projection, it's for 1 year. And if we need to modify that based on the schedule, then we would do so, as long as it does not exceed the amount that has been approved. And if we need to come back to the board for additional time and or money, we would do so. But this amount, the feasibility funding that we're requesting in the time frame is the 1 year.
Yeah, I think that the idea is we negotiate a contract that covers the full pre-development period, which includes entitling the site and pre-development related to the first phase of the work, and then also development of that first phase. But we can factor in some notice to proceeds to release them on the feasibility phase before proceeding with the next phase. So the idea is that this funding, we might not need all 12 months, but within the 12 months period, we come back to the commission for approval of the pre-development, the next phase of that contract. But that's the idea, that the contract would cover the entire site entitlement and pre-development for the first phase, and vertical development of the first phase, where we can stage notice to proceed.
Could you go back to the development schedule? The one.
One more slide back.
Yeah, this one. Yeah, because this one shows design and entitlement phase going through 27, early phase of construction drawing permits, and then the actual development, construction. Okay, so we're into 2029. I was just trying to understand, you got this particular engagement will only last initially through the first year, but this is really almost a 5-year development cycle. So, what role would this consultant have? Because the fact that this is a WMATA related project, so you're going to need some kind of engagement with WMATA through the whole life of
Yeah.
This project.
Yeah, the engagement would be for the full 5 years for this entire cycle that you see right now. This funding is just to pay for the first phase of work with the development consultant to get us through feasibility. So we would negotiate the contract to cover this entire cycle, but we can factor in notice to proceed to only proceed with this first phase of work based on the funding that the commission approves if they approve it.
So, and the first phase is $500,000.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea what the cost would be over that 5 years?
I think that's part of the negotiations. I think there's definitely different levels of involvement during pre-development. And I think Urban Atlantic said that they were open to negotiate different fee structures for different parts of pre-development that correlates to the amount of work that's needed at the time. There are definitely some parts of pre-development when we're heavy in the design phase where they'll be more engaged than maybe these early phases where we're working on the JDA and it's just not a lot that's happening. So as part of the negotiation, I think we're gonna work to more clearly sort of phase the pre-development fees in correlation to the services they'll be providing.
So it was clear from the RFP that this was going to be a multi-year engagement.
Yes.
So that we knew that we were so when we give office, if the commission approves this, we will be authorizing the initial $500,000, but we also be executing a contract for covering us through the development. Correct?
Yes.
And we can do that without having to rebid an RFP for every phase.
I believe so. I think I'll need to maybe confirm. I think we should be able to do that because we're bringing it to the commission right now for approval for that duration.
Morning, Commissioners. For the record, I'm Kate Brown, Senior Executive Vice President. It is my understanding that we'll be approving the selection of Urban Atlantic for the exploratory phase and select them for the entitlement of the project, as well as for the construction of phase 1. Staff will have the option to come back to the commission for the latter phases. There are 4 phases to this development. So we're selecting them for the construction of phase 1. We have the option at some later date to come back and say, perhaps we want to procure for the construction of phase 2 and may elect to advertise for a different developer, and we would bring that to the commission for phase 2, for construction of phase 2, perhaps, or phase 3 or 4. And so we have that right to come back and do those phases. But Urban Atlantic will work with us under a contract for the entitlement of the entire site and the construction of phase 1. And that's the approval we're seeking from you at this time for HOC to negotiate a contract with them.
Yeah, so I understand the scope of what they're looking at, okay? I'm just trying to understand this whole 5-year participation. We're investing $500,000 now, but this could over a 5-year cycle cost us, let's say at the same rate, it would cost us $2.5 million.
Were the proposals that received, did they respond to potential costs over the potential full 5 years, or was it just for this first phase?
It's for both. So the total development fee under Urban Atlantic's proposal is 4% of the total development costs, which is in line and competitive with the other proposals received. And then the respondents had a range in terms of their pre-development fee, but all open to negotiation based on duration, based on the scope of services sought during that pre-development phase. And then Urban Atlantic also did propose this pre-development cap. So the entirety of the development fee will be largely driven on the total development costs of the first phase of the project and the entitlement work for the entire site. And it's very much in line and competitive with the other proposals received.
I would recommend that you clarify that in the final material to go to the commission. so that question is addressed, because yeah, that would be critical for me to want to advance this.
Will do.
Is there any particular position that you all have related to if the approach should be one where we consider a long-term contract or one where we present on a repeated basis at different phases? Our approach is one where we're just seeking the support to get this initial entitlement done, but it would be, helpful for us to know if there's recommendations and or thoughts from the committee related to how we approach these projects.
It's a kind of mixed bag in a way, because on one hand, there's an advantage in knowing you're going to have the same consultant working through the entire development. At the same time, there are situations where they may fall and not be able to perform as the way you want them to. And you want to be able to have the option to be able to come back and select someone else if you need to do that. Okay. So I on one hand, I certainly understand, because the nature and the complexity of this project, of having one body that you can work through, who has this relationship that you are basing this on with the MATA, and their experience in doing this, of having a multi-year relationship with them. I understand that, the value of that. At the same time, we want to make sure we are always betting on a winner. And we have the ability to pull the plug if we find out they're not. Okay. So, and what our exposure is long term. Because of the fact this is being paid for out of RELOC funds, right?
This initial tranche is from the OHRF.
OHRF, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that would be the source of dollars you would be looking for the entire 5 phases, correct?
Not necessarily. I think it depends on what amount and the capacity of our different resources in terms of which source we would recommend.
So what we can suggest is that over the 5-year phase of this project, while we are selecting the development consultant now, that we as a commission will get a regular update about where we are in the progress of this and what actions, if different than this, need to happen.
Yes, and we will have to come back to the board for next steps for the full contract. We're at the very preliminary stages at this juncture. And so once we retain their services, we'll have more detailed information on timeline, on the different milestones, and also whatever approach we take on this project and moving forward, we'll be sure to address the issue you just raised, which is how at different phases we have incorporated options to allow us to pivot when needed.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to ask Roy, I don't know, do you want in the negotiations of the contract something to be included about such options that at certain phases there would be the option to review to determine whether to continue or not?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
That's always something I think is inherent in any contract.
Right. And just to be clear, you're wanting to know that those terms are incorporated in the contract, not that we're coming to the commission to advise that things are going well and we want to continue with the contract. You're indicating that we should make sure that we have the different phases and where we need approvals coming to the board for those decisions.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions?
With that explanation, I recommend that we advance it to the full commission for their review at our next meeting.
I will second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion is approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda has to do with the replacement of an elevator at the Barclay Apartments.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Committee Chair. And this particular matter is related to one of our properties, the Barclay Apartments, garden style apartments that has 4 levels that have each building with an elevator. This particular elevator has become inoperable. We conducted an extensive amount of due diligence to explore potential options shy of full replacement and have concluded that we do need to move forward with full replacement. Of note, the way that we have approached trying to ensure that we have a competitive yet quick response to this elevator outage includes us obtaining quotes, but doing so in an expedited manner. As a result, according to our procurement guidelines, falls within what would be called an emergency procurement, but you will note that this is not a sole source, that we've done due diligence. I will turn it over to our Vice President of Asset Management, John Wilhoit, to provide more details in regards to this request.
Thank you, President Andrews. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is John Wilhoit, Vice President Asset Management. This approval request is for infrastructure modernization of a single elevator at one of our properties. The title is the longest you'll hear this morning. The Barclay Apartments, approval to select a vendor to replace one elevator at the Barclay Apartments for the President, Executive Director to negotiate and execute a contract for up to $285,445 and approval of the capital expenditure budget. The Barclay was built in 1953. It's in Bethesda, Maryland. It's a garden-style multifamily community comprised of 4 buildings with 157 units. Current occupancy rate is 96%. It offers a diverse range of living options, including 26 studios, 91 one-bedrooms, 42 bedrooms, and caters to individuals and couples and families. Property comprises a diverse affordability mix as well, including 76 market rate units, 21 set at 30% of AMI, which are further supported with Section 8 project-based vouchers, and 60 units at 60% AMI. The purpose of this proposal is the property requires the immediate replacement of the sole elevator in building 4700, which is inoperable and past its useful life. The request is for the President, Executive Director to be authorized to execute a contract with Action Elevator for $285,445 for the replacement modernization of the inoperable elevator at this property. The background is that this is the sole elevator in a single building, which services 44 units. Repairs were attempted over several weeks, 6 weeks in fact, and deemed impossible due to age, condition, and parts availability. The original manufacturer also is no longer in business. Next slide, please. Procurement. To address the issue, proposals for replacing the elevator in building 4700 were solicited from 3 vendors. The cost provided ranged from $285,000 to $399,000. To expedite the replacement of the elevator in building 4700, staff proposes to utilize Section 5.6, non-competitive proposal of the procurement policy. And the scope of work includes replacement of the elevator, which is referred to as modernization by the vendors within this industry. Next slide, please. HOC's asset management and real estate staff requested bids in recent weeks, including commentary on the timeline to complete the installation. Vendor selection included an assessment of the price and capacity to begin the work and promptly complete the work in a timely fashion. This slide depicts the bidders and the range of prices. The funding for this work is to replace the elevator is proposed to be funded by the replacement reserve account at the property, which as of February, the account had balances of $355,000 and $202,000 in the accounts. Next slide, please. Does the Development and Finance Committee support staff's recommendation that the Commission, 1, approve the selection of Action Elevator under the single source provision of the procurement policy to replace the elevator in building 4700 at the Barclay Apartments, and 2, authorize the President Executive Director to negotiate and execute a contract with Action Elevator for a total contract cost of $285,445 plus an HOC held contingency of $42,000 for a total project cost of $328,000, which cost is to be funded from the property's replacement reserve account. There is no impact on the Commission's fiscal year 24 operating budget, and there is no fiscal impact. Staff recommends that the Development and Finance Committee support staff recommendations. I'd be pleased to answer any of your questions.
No question. I definitely would support this happening yesterday. I mean, the fact that you've had 44 residents who have been patient enough for 6 months, I mean, went down in September until now, is to me somewhat amazing. And how long is it going to take to get this elevator?
Take 32 to 36 weeks,
How long?
32 to 36 weeks.
Whoa.
Our management company has been consistently in communication with all of our residents.
But you've got 44 good residents who are not complaining about this.
It's a lovely spot. It's a lovely place to live.
Yeah.
They certainly have been patient. Yes.
They must have all come from New York City, where they used to walking up and down with no elevator. But I definitely recommend this be sent forward to the commission for action immediately.
And we've made sure that, I mean, are there any elderly or, folks who need the elevator?
We definitely did a wellness check as well as offer to relocate residents, and no residents elected to be relocated. But our property management company has been working closely with these residents.
But when we get the elevator in, we should not only take them for a ride in the elevator, but take them out to lunch.
Not all at once in the elevator. So
I move that we advance this forward to full commission.
I will second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion is approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
The final item on our agenda today is the approval of a new participating lender for the single-family mortgage purchase program.
Yes, thank you. We will have this presentation by our Senior Executive Vice President, Kayreen Brown.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, I'm Kayreen Brown, Senior Executive Vice President, and I have Paulette Dudley on standby if there are questions. So we are requesting that the Commission approve the addition of another lender to our single-family mortgage purchase program, as is our practice, and as the Commission has approved in the past, continuous addition of new lenders to the program to ensure that we have the most available lenders so that our applicants have access to the largest number of lenders in the program. And there are currently 27 lenders in the program, and Atlantic Coast Mortgage has applied and has met all the requirements to become a participating lender. Their information is provided in your book on page 50, 52, 50, 51 of your packet, and they provide loans across the nation in the DMV, especially. They have an office in Fairfax. That is not a deterrent because they will meet applicants wherever they need to meet them, electronically or to their homes or wherever they need to make the applications. They are not a mortgage broker and can close loans in their own name. That is a primary requirement of being added to the program. They're approved by Fannie, Freddie, and FHA, and also by US Bank, who's our master servicer for our mortgage-backed securities program. And they are also very experienced in making mortgage revenue bond loans to participants who are interested in becoming homeowners. And that is essentially the gist of this request. Before they can start making loans, they have to go through lender training by our staff. That is also a requirement. There are no reasons why we would not want to add Atlantic Coast Mortgage. And so we are recommending that you advance this to the commission. And if there are questions, we can answer them.
Just a question being, with a growing pool of lenders, which I think is going to be good for people who want to be buyers, who have as many access points as they can. What about participating lenders? Are they finding that their involvement in our program is beneficial to them? Meaning the fact is that, you keep expanding the pool, I get less opportunities maybe to make loans. So what are you finding is happening with our lender pool?
Well, in the current pool, and Paul, you can jump in if you want, with the current pool, there are some lenders that are more active than others. But this does not take away from those who want to make loans. It just means that our borrowers have more opportunities, across the board. But there are some lenders who are a little bit dormant. And so this just really gives access to more borrowers.
Yeah. And for those lenders who
Chair
are
Priest,
not,
your mic is muted for
mine's
some
not.
reason. Oh, for some reason I got a note. Maybe your hands were in the way.
The green light is on.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
No, I'm just, for those persons who are not as active in the pool, lenders, do we ever do anything to remove those who are not participating as well as
Yes.
we'd like for them to do that?
Yeah, yes, Commissioner Priest. For those who are not active after 12 months or so, they're considered dormant. And if they need to start making loans, they have to go through a retraining process. But there are those that are constantly producing loans within the market parameters. And so, the heavy focus is there. We believe that Atlantic Coast Mortgage will be one of those active lenders given their history. And so we're pleased to have them added to the pool.
I don't want to get into a lengthy request for a response on this, but I'm interested. I'm a prospective buyer.
Mhm.
How do I get access to this pool?
We do have all of our lenders listed on our website.
Okay.
We're also affiliated with realtors who can inform would-be borrowers about the HOC program. And we have, through our staff also, we have a homeownership program. Marketing is done through that as well. So yeah, our website is the primary means for making the information available.
Okay. With that, I make a motion that we recommend this item forward to the full commission for action in our April meeting.
I will second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is approved.
Thank you.
Are there any other items to come before this committee?
Not at this time.
Okay, then with that, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.